Hey everyone, it's Mr. Vic here. Welcome back to a new video. This one is a very special video, as you probably can tell. I'm with
Henrik Palm.
Yes, the QUINT Whip Flat Rider. I'm going to do today a rider interview, so therefore I will make a French video out of this too, if you are interested in that. I will try my best to ask the most interesting questions as I can, and if you have any questions about this style of riding, this flat park, brutal flat style of riding, you can go in the Discord server linked below or in the top right hand corner.
Whole entire flat god army.
Yeah.
Waiting for you.
So present yourself.
My name is Henrik Palm. I'm 25 years old. I live in Sweden. I have been riding scooters since 2009. I focus on primarily flat riding. At this very moment, I have over 130 flat world records, and I'm also the first person to ever quintuple tail loop flat on actually 100% flat ground. So
that's fine.
That's a little bit about me. I do a little bit more stuff than that. I do a lot of gym training, I do trading. I want to inspire as many people as possible, and I want them to become the best versions of themselves. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Okay, so very motivational thing, actually.
Exactly.
When did you started to ride flat like that? And who inspired you to ride like that?
So I started riding in 2009, and at first I actually wanted to become a park rider, but because of where I grew up there was not any skate parks around. Like, I think the only skate park was like more than an hour away, and I wanted to go out and train every single day, and it was like I'm not gonna take that. Looked up on YouTube on like best scootering flat tricks, and there were some guys that could do like right flip, triple whips. I was like, how the heck can you learn that on flat?
So you were really impressed by it.
Exactly. The reason why I started to do flat riding was because I wanted to be able to just go out and train every single day and not be limited by having a skate park. I still to this day hold this philosophy that if you can't go out and do something like right now at any time anywhere, it's like it's not worth learning that skill, because you are essentially letting your fate be in somebody else's.
Yeah, I get your point. When you have like almost zero skate parks around you, like you probably do in Sweden.
Yeah, we don't have many around.
Yeah, it's pretty logical why you see such riders progressing in such a style over there.
Exactly.
So was it more about the skate park limitation or the inspiring rider?
I actually think both contributed just as much.
Okay.
On YouTube came across a guy called Simeon. His YouTube name is Rayan17. His videos are still around last time I checked. I think 2007 he did like triple whip to crossfoot flat, inward flat, right flip, and all this insane stuff. And I was like, well, if there is someone out there doing it, then I can also do it. And I would give up like anything to be able to do just those couple tricks pretty much.
Okay.
And yeah, that's kind of where the journey starts.
Okay, nice. What wheels do you ride and why?
The wheels I used are called ground control wheels, and they are essentially inline wheels. The reason why I use them is because they last me longer than metalcore wheels, actually, believe it or not. Because of the way I ride, I tend to de-hub wheels really easily. But of course, it's not the only reason. One of the main reasons is that it does make flat riding a little bit easier. But it's not a night and day difference, absolutely not.
So it's more for strength than actually lightness that you ride these?
I would say it's for those reasons, but as a whole I just have a much better experience riding with smaller wheels, and I have done that for a very long time.
So you benefit from both of these like parameters? Exactly.
I would also make the point that if you use 100mm wheels, I don't think that you would feel like any difference between like 80mm and 100mm. Like back in the days when I rode Racer Pro, the wheels on them were actually 98mm, so they were also less than 100. It's nothing new to use wheels that are less than 100mm, because people seem to think that if the wheels are under 100mm, it doesn't count, it's not a scooter, and these people are the ones that have stagnated for 5 years in progression.
Let's not talk about that, but it's kind of not my opinion on this take. But let's focus on the questions. What is the best thing to do between accelerating the trick, so boosting the trick, or throwing it? Let me take it with a bit of context. For example, if you do your QUINT whip, what is the most important thing between throwing the whips as fast as you can with your feet
Yeah, okay.
or boosting the trick with your hands?
Okay. Great question, and very, very specific question. So I would say that they are, in the QUINT whip specifically, it is just as important having to kick the deck really hard and then catch it up with some, really, really quick handwork. For the most part, I would actually say that it's more important that you have a really, really strong rotation. So I'd say that's slightly more important.
Okay.
But the most important thing is that you can put the fast rotation, the fast kick, and also the high jump together to one fluid motion.
You need to have all of these perfect.
And that's what creates the QUINT whip flat. It is having them all exceptionally good.
What is the most important thing between jumping high or doing the tricks faster?
Great question. I would say what most people should focus on is doing the trick faster, because you can only jump so high. If I would compare my bunny hop from 2014 maybe to now, I would actually say that there is not really a real noticeable difference. But something that you can really work on is moving around the scooter much quicker, because again, it's much easier to learn to move around the scooter faster than it is to
jump higher,
like 20 centimeters higher. Like it's not just something that you can learn, progress to really, really quick.
So therefore doing the trick faster is easier than jumping higher, and it is as well the reason why it's more important.
I think so, yeah. But you should definitely focus on both things. So it does make sense to also practice your bunny hops. Okay. That means, jumping up stairs, jumping up ledges.
What do you think is the biggest tip for progressing?
So for flat riding, what I used to do back in the days was to do stuff down in grass pits, actually. And I know if you have watched some of my progression series, there is a clip from 2009 where I do like double whip down in a grass clip. By the way, if you can put that in the interview, that would be really cool. What that does is that it eliminates this fear of landing on the deck and then flipping backwards and slamming your head into the ground. So that's something that has really, really helped me. And what I also had was that we had a grass pit where the street, it went down in a decline. So you could start progressing, jumping down into a really, really deep part of the grass pit. Then it declined down into a completely flat surface. And that was actually how I learned double tail flats. I started doing it down the highest point, and then I progressed it slowly over a couple months down into the completely flat surface. So that's a really good tip if you don't have access to a bunch of ledges and stairs and kickers. That can work really well, and it's a very underrated tip that I just don't see much nowadays people doing. So
it's funny because I actually did that for one of my best trick flat, and it was a noneless flat, and because I did it with an inclined plane, with a tiny bank in the grass.
Exactly,
it helped me so much figuring out how much I need to lean forward to complete the trick.
Then another great tip is obviously to do stuff down larger curbs or small ledges, because you don't have that upwards slope trajectory that you have in a flyout or a kicker. It makes the progression the most similar to doing the trick on flat. It's just that you lack the air time, that's what the ledge gives you. So that's one thing you can do if you have a ledge. And then on some streets there will be some uneven parts of the streets. So, you have this little slope, and that's also what I called out the Cali on when he did his QUINT whip, so-called flat, because he did it on a part of the street where it is a bit like this, that could also help for progression. I actually think if you can learn a flat trick on on this type of surface, I will overcome some of the worst psychological barriers that you will face with difficult tricks.
In the whole scooter community, I'm going to talk about a tiny problem. So what can we call your style of riding? Since naming flat for your style of riding is confusing a bit, because because John rides flat land and stuff like that. So I'm just asking this question not for making any heat. I just want to make this less confusing for everybody. Okay, so what should we call it then?
I think we still call my riding style the more brutal way of riding, because I know that you have seen my toes. If you fail the tricks that I do, you can lose a toenail, you can break your fingers. Yeah, it's more brutal than the tricks some of the other flat riders do, like, you know, hitchhikers and nose manuals and all that stuff. But that's not to say that their tricks are no more impressive, because that, I think that's equally impressive actually, because I know how difficult it is to do their stuff. But I don't really have a specific name for it, but if you say brutal tricks, the first thing that comes to mind for a lot of people is like the sleazeball flip or something.
Okay.
So yeah, and then, you know, the way John Race rides, it's more like BMX, flat land. People, at least they get to know what you're saying. So
Okay, so should we call it brutal flat?
I think you should, yeah, 100%.
Okay, so hashtag brutal flat in the comments. Everybody.
Yeah, hashtag brutal flat.
So, is it great to start progressing on a heavy scooter and then to brutally switch to a lighter scooter in order to progress like that?
I would say if you can't do a double whip flat on a heavier scooter, then you probably should not switch to a much lighter or flat specific setup. Because if you can learn the basics on a heavier setup, the moment you change to a much lighter and more like customized setup for flat riding, you're really going to appreciate the differences. So for your question, I think it makes a lot of sense to start off with a slightly heavier setup. Then over time, maybe change the wheels, maybe cut the deck down a little bit, you know.
So it's actually worth it.
I would not do it, by the way. But I'm just saying, if you have a heavy scooter now, you should keep it, learn the basics, and then you can get a more specific setup.
In order to progress a bit faster.
Exactly, because I'm just saying that's what I did. I learned triple whip flat on like the worst scooter in the entire world. It was like, you know, the old Mad Gear decks that were like 3.8 inches wide.
Yeah.
The edges were like knife sharp.
They were so freaking heavy with the down tube.
And I had like I think the front wheel was like 95 millimeters and the back wheel was more than 100 millimeters. So the scooter had like this awkward forward tilt and the bars were only 14 inches wide, and I still managed to learn triple whip on that flat, which today I don't know how the fuck I did that.
By the way, those decks were really, really strong.
Oh yeah, they were 100%. I remember when I snapped that deck, I actually made a sledgehammer out of it. You know, to slam down stuff. It worked really well for that.
What's your opinion on Kali's QUINT whip? Is it 100% flat or 99% flat? And before you reply to this question, what I mean, if you don't know this, is that Kali Coppola did a QUINT whip, but like it was like on a tiny bank like this. Like the tiniest ever. So I want you to say if it is for you considered as like really flat.
I think most people out there can consider it to be flat. But I, as someone who has done QUINT whip on like over the years many times, I know that part, that small little curve or slope
bank,
it makes an enormous difference psychologically. Like that difference is insanely big, because you know, just looking down on the street and you see that little slope, you know you have that tiny little edge. You know, it's not 100% flat, it's almost 100% flat. That can make or break a trick. So I know what that does to your psychology. Do I think he could potentially do it 100% flat? Absolutely, I think he can. 100%.
So it is more progressing than 100% flat.
Yeah, definitely. I would say so. Because if on the same day he would attempt it on 100% flat ground, we don't know if he would actually have gotten it right. So personally, I don't count it as a QUINT whip 100% flat, like completely flat. But I guess you could say it's still flat. But I really want to see him do it on a 100% surface.
This question really shows how like 1 degree of slope can change everything. Absolutely. Like Absolutely. When we say brutal flat, it's brutal to this point.
Yes, 100%. And I don't want anyone to think that I have anything like no envy against Kali, or even like
he's progressing.
BDC, because he has also done a QUINT whip supposedly flat, but it's the same thing there. It wasn't 100% flat. It's absolutely nothing personal against the riders. As someone who has done QUINT whip 100% flat, I know what difference it makes. And it kind of takes credibility from my 2-year journey, just getting it down in a small slope to do it 100% flat. That's kind of why I'm bitching a little bit about it. So.
No BS on that rider, actually. He is really good. His Instagram will be right there, actually.
Both of these riders are amazing. They are very good friends of mine, and I wish them nothing but good. But when it comes to just this quint with flats, they know that I have this opinion about it, so it's nothing new. Fun fact, the day when BGC did the quint, he asked me, why would you not share the quint whip to your Instagram story? And I was like, because it's not 100% flat. And we actually went a little bit back and forth about that. And yeah, like, I really hope I didn't upset him, because that's like the last thing I wanted to do. So
Because you know that this is like a crucial thing about it.
Exactly.
It's actually pushing the riders to progress even more. Yes, it's a bit hard on them, but it's pushing them. Is it better to ride in cold conditions in order to be better in normal conditions? Kind of a stupid question, but like same thing as a cold bath, for example.
You know, if you go out and ride in the cold, your performance will be dramatically reduced. So personally, when it's like -degrees outside now, I'm not even going to go out and film, because I don't think it's worth it. Going out there, getting frustrated, getting all these aches in your body, like that's something I did maybe 5 years ago, but I've actually stopped doing it. But for your question, I think that it can probably help a little bit, to practice in the cold, and then when it's hot, you can come out there. Now it's all of a sudden much easier to ride, but it's not something that I would like actively practice.
Yeah.
Okay. If I want to ride when it's cold outside, I'm gonna do that. But I'm not gonna go out and like practice just so that I can get better when it gets warm.
Then how hard it is to ride in Sweden.
On the winter, it's extremely difficult to ride in Sweden, because we have very cold winters, very hot summers. So personally, for me, the best times to ride is in the spring and the autumn.
It's like you have like probably like 6 or 7 months to ride, and that's it.
Exactly. Yeah, in the winter right now, it's pretty useless to ride if you want to ride outside and ride flat.
So what do you think is the best trick you have done, or one of the latest?
The best trick that I have ever done, personally, is the quint whip 100% flat. That's my best trick. That's the trick I'm the most well known for. But on a like lately, I think the sleazeball flip.
So is it like a whip umbrella?
It's a whip umbrella. It's a double whip and then a whip umbrella. Yeah, it's crazy. The reason why that trick comes to mind is because it's so damn scary, and it's also very risky. Because if you misalign just a little bit in the landing, you can like literally smash off your toe, off the freaking foot. Because the force the scooter comes down on is enormous. I just think that will be the best, actually.
How important is the weight of the scooter in brutal flat?
Yeah, where like the total weight of the scooter is not the most important thing. The most important thing is where the weight is at in the scooter. So if you have a scooter where all the weight is at the rear of the scooter, like at the back wheel area, that is not going to be a great scooter to do brutal flat tricks with. It's going to hinder your whip tricks, like your whip buttercups, your quad or quint whips, finger whips. So you want to have most of the weight in the front of the scooter if you want to do the tricks that I do.
Okay. Is ICS worth it to start brutal flat, as it is a really, really light compression system?
Yeah. I think if you're starting out, SCS and HIC can work perfectly fine. But the moment you start to do like whip umbrella and the donos and all that stuff, then you might want to switch to SCS, because that slit is not going to hold very long and your bars are going to bend.
So just to explain a bit, when you ride ICS, HIC or IHC, your bars have like a slit at the very bottom of it, and it creates a weak point in the bars, such as in the brutal flat. You can easily crack the bars at this point and then snap it.
When you slam the scooter in the ground, all that force will go to a specific point, or it will go to the most weak point of the scooter.
And
so for example, if you have a big crack in the head tube, all that force is going to go to that crack, and that slit will by default be the most weakest spot.
And then it will break.
Exactly.
And then you will switch to the SCS.
You can take your snapped bars and then put on to the SCS.
Yes, and you know what? It will be rate reduction as well.
Exactly.
Because we removed like 5 centimeters of the bars. For the quint whip, what was the most important thing in order to have that speed of the whips?
Yeah. One thing that I have found myself doing is right before I do the rotation, my wrists are like this. Okay, I don't really know if you have paid any attention to when I do the quint, but every time just before I jump, my wrists, they go down like this almost. And for some reason that just gives me that extra leverage needed to rotate the scooter so fast. That was actually something that helped out immensely for my quint whips, to getting them consistent. Something that I never thought about.
So like your wrist was like below the bars,
yeah, exactly. Like it's
that.
really important to find that leverage that grants you that extreme rotation. So I don't know, man. For you, maybe this, way of holding the bar might not make any sense. Maybe for you will have to have a more straight aligned wrist. I don't know. But it's so important to find your ideal leverage to rotate bars so fast.
Last question. Do you think six-tuple whip is possible for you, and why?
Also a question I've gotten so many times. But this very moment, right now it's not possible for me. The reason why is because I don't have my quints on that easy. That six whips is possible simply.
Yeah.
Because the effort that I need to put in to do a quint whip is crazy. But on the other hand, the effort that I need to put in to do a quad whip flat, it's like standing up out of a chair pretty much. It's zero effort. And if I could ever get my quint whip to that point, then six whips could be possible. That's a long journey.
So like if you try to get it for like 2 years, you could probably get it?
There is a chance. There is absolutely a chance I could do that. But now we have a much more big issue, and that is, life kind of gets in the way. I don't have all that free time to just go out and practice six whip all day.
Yeah.
But theoretically, it might be possible. And for someone like Max Grabek, I think he's like 17 or 16. If he could do quint whip today, he could actually maybe get six whips. It's possible because he has the time element.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. You know what? That was it.
Was it? Yeah, awesome questions, bro. Really, really entertaining.
So yeah, big thank you to Henrik Palm. I have no words to describe how many things I learned in this interview. And if you want me to make these rider interviews videos more, subscribe and like this video, please. It'll help me really, really great. So yeah, until then, it was Mr. Vig. I'll see you in the next video. Ciao, ciao.